I knew my life was about to change the moment I saw my own name written on a police report that had nothing to do with me. It wasn't even addressed to me. I wasn't supposed to see it. But once I did, there was no pretending anymore. Everything started months earlier. With a favor, I almost said no to an old friend from my past reached out unexpectedly. We hadn't spoken in years, but the message sounded harmless. They said they were going through a rough patch and needed a temporary place to stay. Just a few weeks. No trouble. No drama. I hesitated. Something about it felt off, but I ignored that feeling. I told myself I was being paranoid. People fall on hard times. That's normal. So I said yes. At first, everything seemed fine. They were quiet, polite, grateful. We didn't talk much, but there was no tension. They paid their share, cleaned up after themselves. If anything, they were almost too careful, like someone trying not to leave a trace. That should have been my first warning. Over time, small things began to stand out. They never received mail under their real name. Phone calls always happened outside or behind closed doors. Whenever I asked simple questions about work or plans, the answers were vague, rehearsed, and short. I didn't push. I had learned, like most people, that asking too many questions makes things uncomfortable. And I didn't want discomfort in my own home. One evening, I came back earlier than expected and found them sitting at the kitchen table, staring at their phone, completely frozen. When they noticed me, they flinched. Not startled, scared. They smiled a second later and said everything was fine. I believed them. Weeks passed, and the atmosphere in the apartment slowly changed. I started feeling like a guest in my own space. Conversations became awkward. Silence stretched longer than it should have. Sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night and hear them pacing, whispering, opening drawers, checking locks. I told myself it wasn't my problem. That phrase became my shield. Then one day, a stranger knocked on our door while I was alone. They asked for my friend, using a name I had never heard before. When I said no one by that name lived there, the stranger looked confused, then suspicious. They didn't leave right away. They studied the door, the hallway. Me. After they left, my hands were shaking. When I confronted my friend that night, they didn't deny it. They just asked me not to get involved. They said it was complicated, that explaining would only make things worse, that they were handling it. And again, I stayed quiet. I told myself I wasn't lying. I was just staying out of it. But staying out of it slowly became impossible. Police cars started appearing on the street more often. Not for us. Just around. Random coincidences, I told myself. But every time I saw flashing lights, my stomach tightened. One night, I overheard a phone call that made everything collapse. My friend wasn't just hiding from someone. They were actively misleading multiple people, using false information, false identities, temporary addresses. My home. That was the moment I realized I wasn't just a bystander anymore. I was part of the infrastructure. I wanted to confront them again, demand answers, tell them to leave. But fear stopped me. Fear of conflict. Fear of being dragged into something I couldn't control. So I did what I had been doing all along. Nothing. The knock came early one morning. Not loud. Not aggressive. Calm. Professional. When I opened the door, 2 officers stood there. They asked for my friend. Then they asked about me. My name, my relationship to them, how long we had lived together. I answered honestly. Or at least, I thought I did. Then one of them showed me the report. My address. My name. Statements attributed to a resident. That's when I understood what had happened. My silence had been interpreted as cooperation. Not because I signed anything. Not because I helped actively. But because I allowed my space, My identity, my normal life, to be used as cover. My friend was taken away that day. No resistance. No goodbye. Just a look before they left. Not apologetic. Relieved. Relieved that it was over. For them. For me. It was just beginning. I spent months dealing with questions. Paperwork. Explanations. Rebuilding trust with people who suddenly looked at me differently. Some believed me. Some didn't. The hardest part wasn't the stress. It was the realization that every chance I had to stop it earlier, I chose comfort instead. I thought silence would keep me safe. Instead, it put me right in the middle. What I learned from all of this is simple, but uncomfortable. You don't need to do something wrong to end up paying for it. Sometimes, all it takes is doing nothing. When something feels wrong and you ignore it, you're still making a decision. And decisions have consequences. I don't offer this story as a warning or advice. Just as a reminder. Trust your discomfort. Question what doesn't add up. Because once your name is attached to someone else's secret, removing it is much harder than you think.